Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of Game of Thrones. This week's episode is Season 5, Episode 9, entitled The Dance of Dragons. And, coming off of last week's episode, we knew this one was going to be pretty amazing to, even come close to what they did with Hardhome last week, after what I would probably say is probably the best battle in the series we've gotten so far. Of course, the White Walkers and their undead army, taking out the wildlings and stuff like that. But although this week's episode wasn't quite as epic, it still was epic, okay? I'd say this episode in general is probably the second best of the season so far, or my second favorite anyway, after Hardhome last week. And we got a lot of stuff involved with this episode too. Of course, Game of Thrones is notorious for having episode 9, episode 10 to being their big episode. We go as far back as season 1. As the episode where Eddard was executed, I believe. And ever since then, it's been in general episode 9, episode 10, where things really start to go down. Last season, even, we had the battle, on the wall and stuff like that. Then we had episode 10, the season 4 finale, with the whole Tyrion and Tywin stuff going down with Shay and stuff like that. But, also episode 8 last season was very good too, because we got the whole Oberyn and the mountain thing. And of course, this season we got something that obviously topped it, but in a different way. Of course, what happened at Hardhome. And Game of Thrones very much delivered this week, and like what I said, probably the second best episode of the season. Of course, before we get to the two very obvious standout highlight moments of the episode, we can talk about some of the smaller things that were going on with a few of the other characters. We see at Dorne, we see Oberyn's wife, his former wife before he obviously was killed, of course. She is basically against allowing with Jaime or the Lannister name whatsoever, because she is hell-bent on seeking some sort of revenge and stuff like that with the Sand Snakes earlier in the season. And she talks back to the king they have there, Oberyn's brother, and she's basically forced to kiss his ring or kiss his hand, basically, and either pledge herself to him or basically die. So she does that. But yet, after the fact, she seems to be a little bit more pro-Jaime than anti-Jaime, but it could just be her putting on a face she now believes she has to put on, which she kind of does now, because it's either that or her death. But it was also good to see Bronn go free this week. It was good to see, while Jaime was negotiating for the possession of Marcella, he also negotiated Bronn's freedom. Even if he talked about him as a little more than a soldier, that was still a decent tactic of, getting Bronn back over to him, getting him released from that prison. And the holding cells, whatever you want to call it. But also, it was kind of funny to see when Bronn was leaving, Sand Snake that, showed herself to him in the previous week, had him say that she is the most beautiful woman in the world again as he left. You're the most beautiful woman in the world. Yeah. He sounded so sincere about it too. But so he didn't have the absolute worst time in that holding cell either, minus getting poisoned. But other than that, not the harshest time I don't think he's ever faced. But so that was good. So Jaime's going to be bringing back Marcella and her new husband from Dorne, along with Bronn, back to King's Landing. I'm not sure if Bronn will stay with him. I imagine Bronn will probably separate himself eventually, though, after this part of it's over. But Jaime's going to come back to a pretty different King's Landing, I'd say. Because I know he didn't get any scenes there this week that I can really recall. But, of course, next week we know we're going to see what Cersei's punishment is going to be. and Jaime's not even aware that she's being held like that, so I doubt he'll get there in time. We'll probably see Jaime return to King's Landing at the beginning of Season 6 and see how he deals with all that, but yeah, that's another discussion for a later time. So that was all pretty good. We also got more with Arya, her further training. Oysters, clams, and cockles. Oysters, clams, and cockles. That's just been repeating in my head since last night. But so it's always cool to see like Arya learning more and more about the trade she's getting into, and she actually sees Sir Meryn, who's coming there with Marjorie's father, and she follows him around. She wants to kill him. He's one of the names on her list, I think. But yeah, so she follows him around, and he goes basically to this whorehouse, and he's being like offered all these different types of women there by the lady running the place, and he keeps on saying too young, too young. And after the first couple times, he kind of knew where he was going with this, because obviously he's a pedophile, or he enjoys little girls, basically. We don't need to explain that too much, I don't think, but at first I thought he did see Arya like walking around and stuff, so I thought he was either going to recognize her or say I want that one, even though she wasn't like working at the place. But no, he picks another little girl he is offered and takes her into the room with him. Luckily we didn't see much of that. But so I'm guessing maybe next week we'll see Arya most likely trying to kill him. I want her to be successful. I think she will be, but I don't see it going completely perfectly either. I'm wondering how she's going to do it. She could always like offer herself to him, and then when they go into the room, she could kill him that way. I don't know, but I think Arya will get it done. Of course, she will. So there's that, and also we go to like the Winterfell area. Of course, Stannis and the rest of his men are still out there on the cold, and Ramsay basically ends up executing his plan with the 20 good men he spoke about in the previous episode. He brings I thought he was going to try to like sneak into their base there and try to like kill Stannis or something, but I don't know why I didn't think of this before. He actually burns their food supply and their horses and different things like that, which I thought was not very honorable. Which we know Ramsay and the Boltons aren't honorable whatsoever, really. But it wasn't honorable, but yet it was also very clever, despite that. Like we've seen how they used that tactic on Vikings recently, back in Season 2, I think. And, it's, again, not the most honorable tactic, but it's one that's actually pretty clever and can actually cripple a group, given the right timing of it. So I actually approve of that move by Ramsay, even though I don't want Ramsay to win. But still, you gotta, at least give him credit where credit is due as far as his strategy with that. But, yeah, so there's that. And so they're trying to deal with, the aftermath of that. And Davos is told to go off and, go off and deliver something for him, or find out something for him, and I forget exactly what it was, excuse me, but it was all pretty much a ploy by Stannis to get Davos out of the area because of what he was about to do to his daughter. Not Davos' daughter, obviously, but Stannis' daughter, who Davos has formed a pretty good bond with over the past couple seasons. Of course, she taught Davos how to read, and Davos obviously cares quite a lot for her. And there's a little touching scene in the episode of Davos giving her that carved deer he had made. He promised to make her a dove, but now she's never going to get that dove, unfortunately, because Stannis sent Davos away because for two reasons, most likely. One, Davos could speak to any remaining conscience in Stannis. Davos could try to draw that out of him, or Davos would try to do something to stop it himself. So hence why he was sent away before he did it. And we got what was probably one of the darkest scenes in Game of Thrones so far. Probably right up there with your Red Wedding and what happened to Sansa earlier this season with Ramsay and Theon and stuff like that. So right up there with that stuff, as well as, of course, the baby being killed and things like that. If you guys remember that happening briefly back in season 4. But yeah, basically Stannis decides to go along with the Red Woman, Melisandre's plan. And I usually call her the Red Woman, but now I'm probably going to try to call her Melisandre a little bit more. You know, he thinks he chooses to believe that this sacrifice will help him. And in the previews, it looks like it actually might, because we know there are some supernatural elements in in the world of Game of Thrones, and we know that, you know, from the resurrection we've seen with the Hound and that group he and Arya had run into, that stuff actually kind of exists in this world. And we see in the previews that some of the ice is starting to melt, so maybe it is actually warming up to more favor Stannis' troops in these conditions. So maybe it actually does work. It's still very dark either way, though. So, Stannis' daughter is dragged off and basically tied to the post, and she is burned alive as Melisandre lights it on fire. And Stannis' former wife, even though she treated her daughter very poorly at the very last second, she tried to save her, but she is held back. And Stannis, it looked like part of him wanted to lunge forward and stop the whole thing, but of course he believed this is the right way to go. And yeah, she is unfortunately burned alive, so it's going to be interesting to see what Davos does when he eventually returns. Hopefully he does, and what he does about it, we'll see. I'm not sure if we'll see more on that until next season, though. But yeah, of course, that was a very dark scene, like I said. The worst part of it probably being, at least it didn't actually show her body literally burning, at least there's that. But the darkest part of it was probably hearing her scream as he knew she was being burned alive. And that was just horrid to hear, completely dreadful. So, yeah, that was definitely one of the worst scenes you could see in Game of Thrones, no question. But as far as Stannis goes right now, I know a lot of people are basically abandoning the ship that is Stannis the Manus. But I still want him to prevail against Ramsay, because obviously as cruel as this act was, and as unjustified as it was, you know, I still believe that Ramsay is even worse than Stannis would be. Because at least Stannis, you know, showed that, oh yeah, this is my daughter, so I still care, but, you know, it still has to be done in his mind. But with Ramsay would probably just do it, no questions asked, no hesitation whatsoever. So I still want Stannis to prevail against the Boltons, and we might see, hopefully we see most of that battle in the finale next week. Okay. Hopefully we see more of that in the battle next week. But yeah, that was all pretty good, despite the nature of it all. And yeah, I'm only going to go a couple more minutes here. I obviously have to have dinner. But obviously the other main point of it was Daenerys, Tyrion, and the others, you know, watching the fighting going on in the Colosseum they have there. And of course Jorah entered it, and we get a pretty cool fight scene. Jorah barely surviving, but he actually manages to kill all the other combatants in the end. Some pretty close calls. Some people were a little afraid for him there, and I was too. But Jorah actually manages to win, and unfortunately well, not unfortunately, but he spots the sons of Harpy in the background, who is trying to come up behind Daenerys to most likely try to kill her, slit her throat, stab her, that kind of thing. It was a really awesome shot when Jorah picked up a spear and just tossed it and killed that first Sons of Harpy member. And basically the crowd is basically being slaughtered left and right by all these Sons of Harpy emerging from the audience. And of course, everyone was surrounding Daenerys trying to protect her. And it was cool to even see Tyrion get a kill. You know, he daggered someone from behind, so that was pretty awesome. I love that. And of course, Daenerys, Jorah. I like the moment where Daenerys actually chose to take Jorah's hand to try to lead her to safety. So maybe she's actually going to give Jorah a chance now, which I'm happy about, but Jorah's grayscale is still an issue. But at least maybe they might be on decent terms before he dies, hopefully. Or maybe Jorah will be cured somehow by some miracle, I don't know. But, yeah, so they're all surrounding Daenerys. All the Unsullied are trying to fight for her, but, you know, they're being killed, and they're so much more of the Sons of Harpy than there were the Unsullied, and it was basically a matter of time before the Sons of Harpy would eventually get in close and be able to kill her, despite the few people defending her. But of course Drogon shows up, and I might be mispronouncing a dragon's name, but he shows up and he starts burning some of the Sons of Harpy alive, which is awesome. He flies around, lands, he like bites one of their heads off, he tears them up and tosses them aside. And some people are questioning the Sons of Harpy spears like piercing the dragon's skin, and I just think it's because the dragon's still fairly young, that his hide's not entirely as difficult to penetrate as it would be once he reaches adulthood. So I think he'll be even more difficult to kill as the seasons go on, as we near the end of the series. So that's still awesome, seeing the dragon flying around, and of course Daenerys escaping on the dragon. She actually gets on top of it and flies off on top of it, riding it, which was an awesome, beautiful shot. I loved it. It was really epic. I just got a huge thrill when the dragon showed up. I just thought it was a really well done scene and things like that. And it was also good to see Tyrion just seeing that all over again, seeing all that happen, just expanding his logical, very realistic mind even more so. So yeah, that was all very good. I do kind of have to cut this video short here. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Probably my second favorite of the season, just behind Hardhome last week. I wonder what they're going to do with the finale, though. I hope we at least get to see most of the Stannis and Bolton battle. Maybe something worth Arya, maybe something worth Jon, we'll see. Maybe one Daenerys scene to see where she's at now. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not sure how many more videos I'll be doing this week, because I will be moving to my aunt's this weekend. But you guys will see me again by next week. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Catch you guys next time, and peace.